Welcome back, boys and girls. It's your main math man, Machine, coming live from Summit Academy. In this video, still working on that unit number 5, closing out the unit with some volume practice. And we're going to be able to calculate the volume of a sphere, a cylinder, and a cone. And also separately, we can find the dimensions when we are given the volume. So for that first one, it says a cylinder has a height of 1.2 centimeters and a radius of 2.5 centimeters. What is your volume in terms of pi? So that means, again, anytime it says what's the volume in terms of pi, that just means to let pi be the symbol. So we don't actually have to plug in that value. So for that first one, I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to find the area of the base. So that's going to be big B. So I have big B equals pi times the radius squared, which is equal to pi times 2.5 squared which we can multiply out. So in your Desmos calculator, make sure you can pull it up. And so I'm going to say in my calculator, I can do 2.5, hit the little keyboard button, and we're going to say a to the second power because that's squared. Or another way of doing it is, if you don't like bringing up that keyboard, you can do Shift 6, and it will move to the exponent. And so we're going to say 2.5 squared is going to be 6.25. Now we say, let me switch back. So that's going to be equal to 6.25 times pi. Now we have to say, all right, our volume is going to be the area of the base times the height. So we're going to do 6.25 times our height, which is 1.2. So when we multiply that out, I can do 6.25 times 1.2. And so that's going to be equal to 7.5. So this is going to be equal to 7.5 times pi. And we're going to say centimeters to the third power. So just make sure that you leave it as pi. And so now throughout the video, I'm going to have it side by side on your page. So all you're going to do is the exact same problem, except a different number. So for this one, it says a cylinder has a height of 5 centimeters and a radius of 3.3 centimeters. What is the volume in terms of pi? So what I want you to do is pause for your tune and try to solve for that volume of that cylinder. On that next one, it says a cylinder has a volume of 96 centimeters cubed. If its radius is 1.6, then what is its height? So for this one, I'm going to set it up like this. So we're still going to have our volume is equal to pi times the radius squared. So we're going to say, and we have to use 3.14 for pi this time. So we're going to set it up like this. We're going to have 96 equals, I'm going to say 3.14. And I'm going to say my radius is 1.6, so I have 1.6 squared times h. So we're solving for h for this one. So when I simplify, I'm going to multiply this out. So this ends up being 96 equals, so let me actually pull it up on Desmos. So I have 1.6 to the second power is 2.56. So then I have 3.14 times 2.56. So I get this crazy looking decimal, but that's okay. You want to make sure you leave it be like that. So I'm going to say my decimal is going to be 8.0384. So you always want to make sure that you're rounding at the end. And since these are being multiplied times each other, I want to solve for h. I have to divide both sides by that amount. So I'm going to divide both sides by that 8.0384. 8.0384. So when I divide that, show you what it looks like. So I take 96, I can say divided by, and I can click on my number, copy and paste it in. And so it gives me this decimal. And if you read at the top, I have to round my answer to the second decimal place. And so what that means is, if I copy and paste my answer in, I'm going to always round at the very end, never in between. So we're going to type out the word round, so R-O-U-N-D. I hit parentheses, Control V to paste my answer in. And now, again, be careful because I can't say that my answer is 12. I need to round it to 2 decimal places. So then I just hit comma and 2. So if I wanted 3 decimal places, I would say comma 3. If I wanted 4, I'd say comma 4, so on and so forth. But I just need 2, so I hit comma 2. So my answer is going to be 11.94. So we're solving for height. So let me write that in there. So our answer is h is going to be equal to, so we're going to say h is equal to 11.94, and that's just going to be centimeters. So again, make sure you're seeing how to round your answer. Again, you type in the word round, R-O-U-N-D, and then whatever your answer is, comma 2. So this is where you put your answer. All right, same kind of setup. For number 4, it says your turn. A cylinder has the volume of 45 centimeters cubed. If the radius is 1.2, what is the height? Make sure you use 3.14 for pi. So make sure you can pause for your turn. Moving on to number 5, it says a cone has a height of 7 centimeters and a radius of 6 centimeters. What is the volume in terms of pi? So I'm going to say my area of the base, because it's a circular base, I'm going to say b equals pi times the radius squared, which is going to be 6 squared. So that's equal to 36 pi for the area of the base. I need the volume, so I'm going to say my volume is going to be equal to the area of the base times the height, which is 7, divided by 3. And so when we multiply this out, what I can do is I can multiply together 36, 7, and divide by 3. So let me clear this out on Desmos. So I said I do 36 times 7, and then I can divide all that by 3. And so I'm going to say this is going to be 84, and now I can say 84 times pi. So I'm going to say my volume is going to be equal to 84 times pi, and centimeters cubed, because we're talking about volume. Same setup for number 6. It says, your turn. A cone has a height of 8 centimeters and a radius of 9 centimeters. What is the volume in terms of pi? So make sure you just leave pi as it is, so make sure you're not multiplying it until the very end. Moving on to number 7. Number 7, it says a cone has a volume, so it gives you the volume in terms of pi, and it says if the radius is 7, what is going to be the height? What we can do is we can calculate this. I'm going to use my formula that I have, so I'm going to say my volume, which is 147 times pi, is equal to, when I say my area base, so it's going to be pi times the radius, which is 7 squared, times h, all divided by 3. And so what I need to do is I need to do some inverse operations to get h by itself. So in order to do that, I need to get rid of this fraction. So let me move this over a little bit. So I'm going to get rid of this fraction by multiplying both sides by 3. So let's multiply both sides by 3. And I can divide both sides by pi. So I can cross out pi on both sides. So what I end up with is this. I have 441 is equal to, I do 7 squared, which is 7 times 7, which is 49, and times h. So these all cancel out. 7 squared is 49. The h comes down. And so my last step is to divide both sides by that coefficient. So divide both sides by 49. I'm going to say h equals 9 centimeters. So just make sure that you're seeing those inverse operations to get that variable by itself. Then for number 8, it says your turn. A cone has a volume of 96 pi centimeters cubed. If the radius is 4 centimeters, what is the height? So try pausing for your turn. Make sure you can check with me. Moving to number 9, it says a sphere has a radius of 3 centimeters. What is the volume in terms of pi? And if we need to, we can leave our answer as a fraction. So again, make sure you're using those correct formulas. So I'm going to say I have my volume is going to be equal to 4 times pi times the radius, which is 3 to the third power, all over 3. So when I multiply that out, I have 4 times pi. Let me show you how to get to the third power. So similar to when you square something, you're going to say I have 3 to the exponent. So I use that A to the B button. Now I'll type in 3, and it will give me 27. So make sure you're careful when you're using those buttons. So I have 3 squared is going to be equal to 27. So I have 4 times pi times 27 all over 3. Make sure you can divide this out. So this is going to be, I can divide 27 by 3. That's going to be equal to 9. So I have 4 times pi times 9. And make sure you can multiply these two together. So I'm going to say our volume is going to be equal to 36 times pi. I'm going to say, actually I can leave it as a fraction, but that's okay. I can say, let's do that actually. Let's leave that as a fraction. So 27 over 3. So I can multiply these two out. So all together, I'm going to have, it's going to be 108 times pi divided by 3 times centimeters cubed. So that's going to be your volume for that one. And for number 10, it says your turn. A sphere has a radius of 4 centimeters. What is the volume in terms of pi? And make sure you leave that answer as a fraction. So make sure you can pause for your turn. Then on the back, it now gives you the volume, and it's saying, okay, the volume of the sphere is 500 pi over 3 centimeters cubed. What is the radius? So you're going to plug that into your formula. So I have 500 times pi over 3 equals 4 times pi times our radius, which we don't know, to the third power, all over 3. So a couple of inverse operations you need to do. We're trying to get r by itself, and so we can get rid of pi on both sides, and we can multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3 over 4, so I can get rid of that fraction. So multiply both sides by 3 over 4. So that's going to be equal to 125 equals r to the third power. And since we're trying to get r by itself, we have to take that root. And since we have r to the third power, we have to take the third root. So I'm going to take the third root on both sides. Let me show you how to do that on Desmos. So click that little keyboard button again in the bottom left. I'm going to say, okay, not the square root because that's not quite what we need. Click on functions, scroll the whole way down, click on that little n with the radical symbol, and what we have to type in is we're going to say the third root of 125. And that makes sense because if we have 5 to the third power, it equals 25. So we're going to say the third root of, or the cubic root of 125 is equal to 5. So that means our radius for this sphere, so let me say the radius for the sphere is going to be equal to 5 centimeters. All right, and for number 12, it says your turn. It gives you the volume of the sphere being 288 pi cubic centimeters. And it says, what is the radius? So try and pause for your turn and check with me. All right, for number 15, it says this. It says, using 3.14 as an approximation of pi, what is the volume of number 5? Sorry, should be for number 1 actually. So let's do that volume from number 1, but instead of pi, we're going to say it is 3.14. So we're going to say our volume from that problem. So we're going to say V equals, and we had 7.5 times 3.14. And so when we multiply it out, we can say V equals 23.55. Again, this was pi, so we don't need it anymore. Centimeters cubed. So just make sure that you're multiplying it out very carefully for yourself. And so now for number 14, it says, your turn, using 3.14 as an approximation for pi. What is the volume from number 2? So make sure you flip it to the back, or back to the front, I should say. Pause for your turn, make sure you can find that volume. Check with me. For the next one, we're going to find the volume of number 5. So let's do a different color here. Let's say yellow. So our volume was 84 pi. So we have 84 times 3.14 is going to be equal to 263.76 centimeters cubed. Same setup for number 16. Make sure you can pause for your turn and you find that volume, that numerical value for the volume of number 16, or sorry, for number 6. Then for number 17, we're trying to find that volume from number 9. And so we're going to use that 3.14. So I'm going to say volume equals, still using that same formula. So I have 108 times 3.14 all over 3. And that's going to be equal to 113.04 centimeters cubed. So make sure you're using, those answers that you got from the front, so that way you can use them. Find the volumes on the back. So then for your turn on number 18, it says that using 3.14 as an approximation of pi, what is the volume for number 10? So pause for your turn and try to find that volume. And for that last one, it says the cylinder has a volume of 99 centimeters cubed. What is the volume of the cone with the same radius and height? So all we're going to say is when a cone and cylinder have the same radius and height, the volume of the cone is 1/3 of the volume of the cylinder. And this is really easy because all we have to do now is, since we have the volume of the cylinder, we can take it divided by 3. So we're going to say, the volume of the cone is going to be equal to 99 divided by 3, which is going to be equal to 33 centimeters cubed. So make sure you can just use that simple arithmetic for yourself. And for that last one, it says a cylinder has a volume of 120 centimeters cubed. What is the volume of the height of the cone? Or sorry, what is the volume of the cone with the same radius and height? So find that new volume by taking it divided by 3. Make sure you can check with me, ask questions as they come up, make sure you can practice using Desmos, and as always, super slam that subscribe button.